EQing could be really difficult, and to tell you the truth, if you don't learn how to listen for EQing, you are not going to get the results you want. That's why I started making these how to hear EQ guides. We already tackled down vocals and basses, and now it's the turn of the drums. If you like this kind of videos, subscribe to the channel so I can keep making them. And also, if you like this video in particular, give it a like. So, without further ado, let's go! As I said, today I'm going to teach you how to listen to EQ for drums. I'm going to focus on kick, snare and toms, and I'm going to focus also on acoustic drums. That doesn't mean that you cannot use this knowledge for electronic drums, because these sounds have a lot of things in common. You will see what I mean in a moment. But for now, let me show you the song that I'm going to be using today. This is a production of my own. I started this song on a live stream and I like it a lot, so I want to finish it. And it's almost finished. So let me show you how it's sounding and pay close attention on how the drums are sounding. They are sounding fat, punchy and really big. So for this exercise, of course, we have to listen to them also on their own, so you get familiar with the sound that we want to achieve. This is going to be different as the other tutorials, because I'm going to show you the final result and then I'm going to tackle down how I did that. On their own, they are really distorted because I'm using this amazing saturation plugin, but for demonstration purposes, so you can focus on the EQ, I'm going to bypass it. Okay, it's sounding still nice, but let me bypass all the EQs that I'm using for the kick, for the snare and for the toms. And now it sounds like this. Which is still nice, maybe it's not 100% my liking, but in context it doesn't sound as good. The toms are a bit too boomy, the kick is getting lost, and the snare lacks a bit of snappiness. So let's start EQing, and we will start with the kick. The kick on its own sounds like this. And to EQ the kick, I'm going to share with you a bit of the philosophy, at least for me, for EQing drums, which is the philosophy of the Smiley phase EQ. Why it's called like that? Because, as you can see here, we have a bump on the low frequencies, a dip on the middle frequencies, and another bump on the high frequencies. Of course, this is what I needed for this context, which is a lot of EQing, but sometimes you will get a more normal smile and not this weird smile that I have right here. But let's do it from the start. And I'm going to be using first TDR Nova so I can show you the frequencies of the kick. And before you say to me that you need to mix with your ears, let me say you that we have visualizers for something, and as a teaching and a learning tool, visualizers are really amazing. So pay attention to the sound and also how it looks on the frequency spectrum. We see that we have a lot of information on all the spectrum. Even though the kick has its fundamental on the lower frequencies, if we listen to it on context, we can feel that, but it's still getting lost. There are some moments when you cannot identify too good the kick, and that's because the transient part of a kick and almost any percussive element is going to be on the mid-highs, even on the high area. And those frequencies is the thing that is going to give you the punch that you need, like the slap in the face that drums have. So let's start listening to different areas of the drum so you know what I'm saying right here. So let me solo a band and let's start listening to different areas. First, the lower frequencies. Then the higher frequencies. And also let's listen the mids. So remember those sounds. And as you could listen, here on the higher areas we have the transient of the kick. So if we want a kick that cuts through the mix, we need to boost the transient first. For that, I first want to open the higher end a bit with a high shelf. Let's listen in context. It's a bit better, but still is not cutting through. So the transient is usually around the 5 kHz. So let me get another band and search for where the transient is. I like that area, but this is also genre dependent. If you listen to some metal songs or more rock songs, you will notice that they boost a lot of the 2K to 5K area because that gives you a more clicky kind of sound. But for this, I don't want the clicky kind of sound, I want other kind of sound, but still, let me show you that. Let's listen a before and after. I'm going to lower a bit of that band, but don't be afraid to go all the way with a gain knob. I mean, this one goes to 18 for a reason, but I'm going to keep it like here on 9. Still is a lot, but as you could listen, it's sounding better, it's cutting through the mix, but we are losing a bit of the lower end. This is when the Smiley face EQ philosophy comes in. So let's listen to the lower end and try to bring back a bit of that. Remember that it's a good exercise to go extreme with something and then go back. And let's listen in context. It's sounding better, right? But still, there is a little bit of a sound that it's bugging me, and this is also a common area to look frequencies for. Don't take this for granted, just listen to the sound and decide if you want to cut it or not. I'm talking about the mid frequencies on a kick, which is going to give you like a cardboard kind of feel. Pay attention to this sound and try to identify it on the kick. Now, as this is a drum BST, the sound is really clean, but still I want to lower that a little bit, and on live recordings it's going to be so much more noticeable. So let's lower that and hear the difference. It's sounding cleaner, and I like it, but of course we have to listen to it on context. I like the results that we're getting. We can still get a little bit more of the transient, but that's something about taste, because we already have a kick that is cutting through the mix, and that's the important step. The snare on its own sounds like this. Which is not bad, but for the song is too thin. In context, lacks a bit of body and also is lacking a bit of presence on the air frequencies. So let's reset this EQ right here, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. And you will see that the philosophy is almost the same, so for the snare and the toms it's going to be a faster process. You have to know that the body of the percussive sound is going to be on the fundamental tone and the transient is going to be on their higher notes. As I said, I want to give body, so let's bring up this fundamental tone. Let's listen before and after. It sounds a lot fatter, right? But in context, I still feel it's a little bit too dark. And personally, I like really airy snares. That means I like snares with a lot of sizzle, and that's on the higher frequencies. I don't think that I'm going to look for the transient on the 5 kHz area because it has a lot of transient on the sound. But I want to add this higher shelf so we got more air in the sound. You can almost hear that the rattling part of the snare and the tail is also on that higher shelf. It's not making the snare be overly bright, but is giving more life, more openness, and that sizzle that I love. Let's listen in context. I'm going to lower a bit of the body, and we have a really nice snare. So as you can see, the philosophy is really similar with the Smiley face EQ. You can even go further and cut frequencies you don't like here on the middle, but in this case I didn't find it was necessary. Finally, the toms, as I said, have a similar process, but for this I'm going to use an analog emulation so you can practice now with your ears. So let's go to a part where the toms are playing. And that's perfect. The tom sounds good, but it's because they're on their own. Let's find a more bossy part of the song where the toms are also playing. They're feeling nice, but again, I feel they're a bit dull. We have to control the lower end of these toms and also give a bit of that transient. I'm going to concentrate only on the lower tom, but you can do similar process to all the toms, and I'm going to show you exactly how. But the lower tom is this one. It sounds good, but we can make it sound better. So let me reset this EQ and let's listen to what we can do. As always, I like to start by adding more transient to the sound. The transient is around here, the 5 kHz. I sometimes go lower depending on the kind of thumb, but for this one I felt 5 kHz was enough. And as you can see, I'm boosting a lot of it. But still, I feel I need to control better the low end, otherwise it's going to compete with the kick. And for that, I also like to cut the lower frequencies up until 40 to 80 Hz, depending on the nature of the sound. And to give a bit of that body back, let's go around 100 on this lower shelf and boost a bit of that. But I bet you already are noticing that we have some resonances on the lower frequencies, so let's try to find those and control them. Listen how rumbly it's getting right here. So I'm going to lower that. And now let's listen a before and after. It's a lot more tight and also has a lot more transient, and for this style I like it to have this kind of nature. Of course, I'm doing this faster, but as always, the recommendation is that you do the same exercise we did with everything else. That is, listening to bands in solo so you really know which frequencies to enhance or to cut. That way you will know if a bad frequency is having too much presence. But as I said, in this last step, as it's really similar to the others, I wanted to use an analog emulation so we can just use our ears. And the process is similar to the other tones. The only thing that for me has changed is that sometimes with higher tones, the fundamental can be a little bit higher. So you may want to change the frequency of the shelf, but the philosophy is the same, and I'm going to leave that for you as a practice, of course. For example, a higher tone like this one is going to have different decisions by me. For example, as you can see, we have the fundamental at around 180, and we cut a bit of this 800 area. But that's something that you have to look for with the techniques I showed you. Train your ears to identify the sweet spots on all these percussive elements. But what I wanted to share with you here is that the philosophy of EQing kick, snares and toms is really similar. Is the smiley face EQ is to boost the fundamental and the transient only if needed, and to look for some frequencies on the middle that you may not want. So the final result is like this. And of course, for the style that I'm going, let's add back the saturation so I can end this video with the song as it's intended. And that's how I tackle down EQing drums. I hope this video helps you to train your ears so you can identify better the frequencies you need to enhance or cut from your drum sounds. As I said, these techniques are also useful for electronic drums because the philosophy is the same. Search for the fundamental tone, search for the transient, and also search almost in the middle for some resonances or maybe some cardboardy sounds. So, I hope you learned something today, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Also check my other videos right here for EQing basses and vocals. And tell me in the comments which other sound you find difficult to EQ. I will see you next time, bye bye.